I kind of want to just open it up right away.
I also just want to say that, this project is a collaboration between me and an incredible, brilliant woman, Lyra, who very much wanted to be here, but couldn't, and for very, very upsetting reasons, which I might get into later. But, we'll start off by opening up.
Yeah. Questions from the audience? Yes, right here.
How did you find Saeed to begin with?
Sid, how did you find Saeed?
Yes. So Saeed was Lyric's downstairs neighbor. They lived together in a brownstone in Harlem. In 2003, she moved into a building with him and just thought he was interesting and found out that he was a member of the Black Panther Party, and she's like a young black woman going to journalism school in Columbia, and was like, let me talk to this man and find out more about it. And they ended up spending quite a bit of time together talking. But she never knew. She didn't know that he had no idea what he was doing. At that time, he told her he was a lawyer or a paralegal for a legal aid society. But then one day in 2005, she comes home, and they had plans to hang out on a Saturday. I think it was a Thursday. And she looks into the window of his apartment and sees that it's totally empty. He's just disappeared. And then a day later, she gets a call from him. And he said, Lyra, if anybody comes looking for me, don't tell them anything about me, but get their information and tell me who they are. And she was like, what's going on? He said, I can't tell you right now, but I'll give you a call in a few months, and I'll let you know. So a few months later, he calls her up and says, come down to South Carolina, I have a story I want you to write about me, and I want you to write a book about me. And so she goes down, she brings an audio recorder, and he proceeds to tell her that for the past 10 years he's been working as an FBI informant, and actually the apartment in which they had spent a lot of time together was an FBI safe house. It was actually where most of the investigation to Tariq Shah took place. Lyra met Tariq Shah on a number of occasions. And she also realized at that point that she was probably captured on tape by the FBI while doing video surveillance. She was wondering, what did I say? Knowing that now they have documentation, they have material of her, and she felt betrayed by him. So she said, this is a fascinating story, but I feel repulsed by what you just told me, and really angry. So she left him, but she stayed in touch with him and would call him every few months just to kind of check in with him and say, what are you doing? Where are you? How are you? At that time that she met Saeed, Lyra and I were both teaching at after-school arts program in Harlem, and one of our students was arrested by the FBI. A 16-year-old Muslim girl named Adama Bach. She was arrested by the FBI accused of being a potential terrorist. And the FBI proceeded to destroy her life. They deported her father. They tried to deport her. She had to put an ankle bracelet on her leg and be home every night by 10 o'clock. And so I made a film documenting her experience. And at that same time began studying counterterrorism cases that were popping up and seeing that informants are being used to enter communities not to uncover plots, but to cultivate plots. And I mentioned to Lyra, this is so upsetting, and also I think would make a fascinating film. But too bad we'd never ever be able to find an informant who would step forward and make a film. She said, well, that's funny you should say that because I actually know someone and I know that he's interested in telling a story. So we called him up, and for reasons that weren't really clear to us at the time, he agreed. He said, yeah, I'm interested, let's do it. Because we knew that he wanted to do a book, but doing a film is a totally different story. And I think what ultimately was motivating him was the fact that he'd been making hundreds of thousands of dollars at the height of his career. And when we met him, he was barely getting reimbursed for gas money. So he said, I'm expendable. They don't, they're not paying me what I'm worth. So let's try something else.
Other questions? Yes. Yes, right here.
Has Saeed seen the film, and what does he think of it?
Has Saeed seen the film?
Saeed saw the film and gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. I think he doesn't see the person maybe that you've just seen. I think in order to do this work, you have to disconnect from what it signifies and what it means. And at Lyric, when we showed him the film, he said, I made this one because I want you to see yourself. I want you to hear the people whose lives you affected. And I want to know what you think, how you feel. And he was like, tough for them. And I think that's what he says. That's his his swagger, his kind of macho bravado posture. But it's clear to us that there's profound conflict, that exists within him. But I don't know what it will take to resolve that conflict. I don't think he'll ever ask for forgiveness. I think he also feels that he is seeking apologies and wants recompense. And I think this is his opportunity to kind of present himself, his motivations, his experiences, perhaps to the community. And we've shown the film also to members of the Taco community, people who knew him. And and their response was really fascinating. We didn't know they were going to be angry at us for making them those too sympathetic, but watching their response, it was clear that they mourned him. They were laughing at the beginning when they saw him dancing in the basketball court, and it was clear that this was a man that they loved. This was someone that was very near and dear to them. And rather than anger and vengeance, it was it's mourning, it's grief.
That's right here.
Yes, why did you decide to film both sides? Was there something you were suspicious about in Saeed that you decided to film his mark?
Yeah, what initiated finding Khalifa?
I have to admit, that question, it always surprises me, because as a journalist, if you had the opportunity to get both sides of the story, why would you ever say no? And from the very beginning, we knew about Khalifa. We knew that he lived right down the street. We knew where he lived. We knew what he looked like. But we also talked to the ACU at the very beginning of this project, and they said, here's the boundaries. Do not use information that you obtain from the informant to go contact the target. You will absolutely be accused of tampering with a federal investigation. You'll probably be thrown in jail. So we didn't contact Khalifa, even though we were dying to find out who he was and what he was thinking, and to get his side of the story. And then at one point, it's kind of very briefly touched upon in the film, is that, he put up this Facebook post saying, I think I'm being set up by the FBI, and I would love to talk to journalists. And so at that point, we talked to ACLU, and they said, that's fair game. Go for it, but do not tell him about Saeed, or else that could also be, you could also be accused of tampering with an investigation. So,
can you talk about that moment just for a little bit longer? That's a kind of explosive moment that very few documentary films have, where you're in the right place.
When we go to film Khalifa, when we first
find Khalifa, you must have had, beyond just legal questions, there must have been so many concerns, so many possibilities that arrived in that moment.
All we knew about him, even though Saeed had been telling us, this guy's not a threat, we still were maybe he is a threat, maybe he is a terrorist. What if he, stabs us and kills us, and, we didn't know what we were walking into, and at the same time, we knew that he was under constant surveillance. So we knew as soon as we walked into his apartment, as soon as we called him, the FBI was going to say, oh, wait, who are these people? And at that point, we had managed to kind of keep things secret. They hadn't, it seemed like they hadn't figured out that we were filming Saeed, even though we didn't do an amazing job of, covering our tracks there. We were calling him on the telephone. We weren't using burners. We've been advised, actually, by Laura Purchase, who said, if you start using encrypted communications with him, that might raise a red flag. But if you've been in communication all this time, then just continue as you have been, and maybe things will be okay. And so, even though we were emailing, calling, in communications with Khalifa, they had just looked oh, who is Lyra Cabral? Let's look at who else she's calling. Oh, she's calling Saeed. They never did that. They never put the fucking pieces together. They are so fucking incompetent. They are amassing the most incredible, vast haystack, that they don't see what's actually happening. And we were just talking about this earlier, that's why Boston happened. Because they are not processing the data. They think that they get this fucking Mountain Everest of information, that they'll figure out the future. That's not how you investigate. You need to have specific, targeted pinpoints. And in the process, they have totally destroyed a community where all these innocent people are looking over their shoulder and they don't feel safe. When we showed this when it was a Taco, this one woman said, when Lyric asked Saeed at some point, how do you get someone to talk about jihad? He said, you don't do that. You ask them, how do they convert to Islam? Why do they convert? She said, I never thought such an innocuous question would have such sinister intent. And now that I have to be afraid of someone asking me, when did you convert? When did you start believing in God? Even questioning where that question has come from. There's millions of people. This is not a very specific problem, but the landscape, it's infuriating to me. I told you about that film that I made about the young woman who was arrested by the FBI. This is a beautiful woman who we care deeply about. And I saw her life destroyed because of this moronic, empty, vacuous fear. And to multiply the love that I have for her and the anger I feel towards the millions of other innocent people who are subjected to this, it drives me crazy. I'm so excited.